It's like eating a wall insulator with some strawberry or banana that your granddad left under his bed before he passed.
That is the worst dish I have seen on a plate in 4 years of MasterChef.
From raw meat to over-the-top flavor combinations, these culinary disasters left the judges horrified. But what the first chef on the list did will leave you shocked. Alright, we're kicking things off with a talented chef, and yet somehow, here we are talking about Lin Chi. Yes, the guy who literally sweated into his dish, quite the unforgettable moment. Yeah, cleanliness might not have been his strong suit, but his plating, it was so impressive that it made Ramsay call him this.
The king of plating, Lin, let's go.
Don't say that.
That's right. Mr. Finesse.
Wait a second, rewind and watch that clip again. Did you catch his reaction? He looked absolutely nervous, and honestly, he had every right to be. This was his doomsday, and it all started the moment he set his dish in front of the judges. Ramsay couldn't believe his eyes. Just moments earlier, he'd called Lin the biggest competition of the night, and now he was staring at a dish so unbelievable, he had to do a double take to make sure he wasn't seeing things.
You got a second?
Graham and Joe literally bent down for a closer look, and unlike Ramsay, they didn't hold back. What came out of their mouths next? Pure gold, brutal, honest, and painfully hilarious. You couldn't make this up if you tried.
That's incredible.
You serious? Did you drive over it?
Yuck. That was supposed to be a baked meringue pie with banana puree? Seriously? I hate to question Ramsay, but there's no way this plate deserved the title of King of Plating. The disaster was real, and Joe didn't hold back, making sure Lin knew the gravity of the situation.
I don't know what to say, guys.
We're gonna eat it?
What is that?
You know this is elimination, right?
And this was the run for the top 10, no joke. This dish had no business being in any kitchen, let alone the MasterChef kitchen. Just the sight of it was so off, you couldn't help but agree with Ramsay's reaction.
What's the grey bits?
It's a banana puree.
It looks like you slipped in cow and baked it.
But that was nothing. The taste was even worse than it looked. Imagine the most bland, lifeless flavor hitting your tongue, or better yet, don't. Just take a look at what Ramsay said it tasted like. You'll get the idea.
It's like eating a wall insulator with some strawberry or banana that your granddad left under his bed before he passed.
It was downright rancid. Ramsay didn't hold back, telling Lin he should already be packing his bags because there was no way he'd survive this elimination. Ouch. Imagine a judge saying that to your face, and Ramsay wasn't done yet.
That is the worst dish I have seen on a plate in 4 years of MasterChef.
Even Joe stepped up, and for a second, Lin thought he was about to taste his dish. But nope, Joe approached with a glare that could kill, and what he did next? It'll leave you absolutely speechless.
Unbelievable. They raise you up so high, and then you fall. Yep.
Joe was so done with it that, in true Joe fashion, he told Lin to start packing his bags, but with a level of harshness that was next level. Trust me, it was 1,000 times more brutal. Try not to cringe.
Might be a memento for you to take home.
Yep, the bottom line is that Lin was a talented cook with huge potential, but his struggle to handle pressure consistently held him back. He ended up serving one of the worst dishes in MasterChef history. But he wasn't the only one. The next contestant's inability to stay calm in high-stakes moments led her to serve a dish that the judges could barely swallow.
What are those? Who cooked that?
I fried them.
Please, have a dog biscuit. Have a dog biscuit.
I was just excited and the whole thing.
Excited for this? I mean, look at the color of those.
Taylor Waltman, a sales training director from Houston, Texas, was eliminated in MasterChef Season 10, Episode 15, following a Mediterranean platter elimination challenge. Unfortunately, she served a dish that was so off-putting it could probably make you throw up. Here's what went wrong. Jaren, who won the Mystery Box Challenge, got to choose the pairs for the next pressure test, and let me tell you, he knew exactly what he was doing. He set up some smart pairings, but the real kicker was putting Julie and Taylor together. And why? Pretty simple.
Taylor kind of gets choppy under pressure, and so they're gonna go down.
The challenge? Oh, it was Joe's creation, so you just knew it was gonna be wild. Joe doesn't do easy, and this one was no exception. Expect the unexpected, and trust me, it was as intense as it sounds.
A perfect platter of Mediterranean food.
But hold up, there was one more twist. It was a partner switch challenge, so they wouldn't be stuck with the same person from start to finish. Talk about pressure knowing the person who began the dish wouldn't be the one to wrap it up? Total game changer. Julie and Taylor started off on the right foot, with Taylor following Julie's lead. But then, when it came time to make the falafel, things fell apart fast. Julie was trying to guide her, but Taylor's complete disregard for instruction, it was just unbelievable.
I think it's too full. Take some out, Taylor.
They could break up and disintegrate in the fryer in seconds.
With just 30 seconds before the first swap, instead of working with Julie, Taylor was off trying to figure things out by herself. Ramsey could already see the disaster unfolding and was visibly concerned, knowing things were about to go downhill fast.
The pairing sticking out tonight, which I think could be a disaster, the pairing of Taylor and Julia.
Ramsey asked John why he thought Garen paired him with Julie, and John confidently said it was because Julie would lead and Taylor could follow. But Ramsey and Aaron weren't convinced, and they quickly shut him down. Turns out, their instincts were spot on.
Taylor is going to be dead weight, and she's going to bring down Julia big time.
If you're not sure about it, then do something else.
Ramsey and Aaron's instincts were spot on. Even though Julie was making all the right calls, Taylor just wouldn't listen. Instead of following her lead, he kept causing confusion, making everything way messier than it needed to be.
Here's make that cucumber sauce. We'll just smash some garlic in there.
Are you sure? I don't think there's garlic in it.
Positive.
It wasn't just about following instructions anymore. Taylor got so lost in his own confusion that he started rambling about random stuff while Julie tried to focus. Poor Julie was getting distracted and frazzled. Finally, Joe stepped in, demanding to know what was going on.
Just gotta get the lamb on. That's number one right now.
You
That's
haven't
way
even
too much.
formed those?
Way too much.
You haven't started cooking anything yet? Get them on the grill so they have time to cook.
Yup, they hadn't even started cooking yet. Everything was half prepped, and Joe looked seriously concerned. He just sighed, wished them luck, and walked off. With time ticking away, Taylor decided to tackle the falafel, but spoiler alert, she had absolutely no clue how to make them.
I need to know what
You're
to
fine.
do.
Just breathe. Just breathe. Get the falafel done.
Okay,
And you got to get those pita chips in.
seriously.
Do that.
You're telling me a million things.
Then she had the nerve to ask Julie what to do next. Like, girl, maybe take them out? Aaron was losing it because the disaster he predicted was unfolding right before his eyes.
Taylor is not bringing anything to this team. She's falling under the pressure, which is unfortunate.
I'm sorry.
In the final 5 minutes, Julie swooped in to clean up Taylor's chaotic mess, and honestly, just watching her try to fix it all made my head spin. Then came the taste test, and Ramsey didn't hold back. His critique? Brutal. Like, brace yourself kind of brutal.
That does not look appetizing. And what I've just witnessed in the last 60 minutes was a freaking disaster.
Ramsey knew exactly where it all went wrong, Taylor. Her panic was written all over the dish. When he asked for an explanation, what came out of Taylor's mouth was, well, let's just say it wasn't winning any logic awards.
I was just excited and the whole thing.
Excited for this? I mean, look at the color of those.
And then Ramsey's eyes landed on the falafel, and come on, we all knew who made those disasters. I was praying he wouldn't notice, but when he did, oh boy, the man was fuming. Especially after already comparing the kofta to something his bulldog secretly left under the sofa. Ouch.
What are those? Who cooked that?
I fried them.
Please, have a dog biscuit. Have a dog biscuit.
Ramsey was beyond done with Taylor, and when it was time for elimination, he didn't even blink before sending her home. Just like that, her MasterChef journey ended, but little did we know, so did her journey as a chef.
I let my nerves and the pressure just get to me. It's just a terrible feeling, letting Gordon down.
Because he will throw you out of this competition if you do something as stupid as to serve us raw, unsanitary food. You take this thing and you cut it in half, it would be dangerous to serve a piece of lamb like this to a judge. This is raw.
Jennifer Beam, usually a standout in the competition, found herself in a tight spot during the Mystery Box Challenge in episode 7. She had all the potential to wow the judges, but something went terribly wrong. Let's dig into what went awry.
It was not my original game plan.
Not exactly. While Jennifer had a lot of ingredients at her disposal, she didn't quite manage to put them together in the way she had hoped. Instead of highlighting the lamb's potential, her dish seemed to miss the mark, leaving the judges questioning her choices.
Ingredients that you have in front of you, they are so diverse. You can really go either way, right? Sweet, savory.
With all those choices, the pressure was intense. Graham casually walked by Jennifer's station and immediately noticed something wrong. He paused, puzzled, and asked her about it. Want to know what went wrong? Here's the answer. Jennifer had overcooked her lamb.
Okay, just under 10 minutes to go.
You cooking the rest of this too?
Yep, I'm gonna cook the rest of that off
Perfect.
also. Yep.
Cooking an entire rack of lamb in just 60 minutes? That's ambitious, and no wonder Graham was intrigued. Jennifer was pushing for the extra points, but halfway through, she realized her choice might be the mistake that haunts her for the rest of her MasterChef journey.
Graham comes over to me and says, "Oh, you're gonna use the full rack?"
But that wasn't her plan from the start. So what changed? Well, here's where things took a turn.
Originally, I was just gonna stick with my lollipop chops. They're really nicely seared. And I was like, you know what, maybe I should try to throw it on there.
Yup, cooking the lamb was already a challenge, but Jennifer decided to make it even harder on herself. What she chose to do next was completely unexpected, and it turned out to be the game changer that could cost her the win.
I figured that I would have enough time to let it kind of cook itself through to a nice rare to medium rare.
The pressure was on, and as Jennifer placed her dish in front of the judges, it was clear she was already second-guessing herself. The lamb wasn't cooked properly, and the rest of the dish wasn't coming together the way she'd hoped.
Chef Ramsay yells time, and I'm thinking, damn, I should have left that rack on my board.
Too late, Jennifer, too late. Ramsay had already made up his mind, and guess what? He found the dish that really impressed him that night. Any guesses on who he was talking about? Yeah, it's pretty obvious, right?
Jennifer, your dish definitely stood out.
Nope, that's not all. Here's the twist, and the reasons behind it will leave you speechless.
Unfortunately, for all the wrong reasons.
Oh my god, you could see her face just drop, of course it did. Being called out for having the worst dish in the mystery box challenge? That's gotta sting, especially when you know you messed up big time. And it got worse. Just as Ramsay called Jennifer out, Joe couldn't keep it in any longer. He cut in, furious and ready to rip her apart. You can feel that kind of rage coming from him, and trust me, no chef wants to face it. Joe's next move? It'll have you holding your breath.
This is not even about cooking, about technique. This is a complete disaster.
Joe literally walked up to her station to reveal exactly where she went wrong. And trust me, you're about to find out why he was so furious. It wasn't pretty.
This lamb is raw, is completely raw.
Raw meat. That's the unforgivable sin in any kitchen, especially in MasterChef. And Joe? He wasn't about to let Jennifer off the hook. He went all in, making sure she understood just how huge the mistake was. It was a brutal moment, no holding back. Steady yourself, because what happens next is gonna blow you away.
And you cut it in half. It would be dangerous to serve a piece of lamb like this to a judge.
And yeah, Joe made it clear exactly how much danger she put everyone in, and it was brutal.
Do you see this? Raw. What are you thinking? What are you thinking about trying to serve us raw food?
Seriously, throwing that lamb in last minute was a disaster waiting to happen, and yet Jennifer went ahead with it. Like, did she forget she was serving it to MasterChef judges? Joe certainly didn't, and he didn't hold back, calling her out in the most intense way possible.
We're here to judge this thing. We're watching you cook. We're not idiots.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any more intense, he said something unprecedented in MasterChef history.
You know, if it were for me, this is not an elimination round. I would send you home now.
Talk about a reality check.
This is a serious cooking competition with a serious prize. Don't come in here and waste our time.
Joe was so disgusted by the sight of that dish, he flat out refused to even taste it. And honestly, who could blame him? One bite of that thing probably had the potential to send anyone straight to the hospital. Jennifer was completely mortified, barely keeping it together. This was definitely one of the most humiliating moments of her life. But if there's one silver lining to this disaster, it's that she'll probably never serve raw meat again. At least not without double checking.
Tried to plate a bigger plate than I really wanted to. I should have stuck with just the chops. And I don't like looking like a fool. And it sucks.
So now you know by now that if there's one thing the judges absolutely can't stand, it's raw protein. And it's not just about the off-putting taste and texture of undercooked meat. There's also that little issue of health and safety. I mean, who in their right mind wants a side of salmonella with their chicken? Definitely not me. But I know one contestant who did something even worse. Dan Wu.
Oh, sorry. There's no way on earth I can swallow that. Disgusting.
Dan's journey began just like every other contestant's, walking in with big dreams, ready to wow the judges and earn that coveted apron. And guess what? He totally nailed it.
You are now all officially part of the biggest cooking competition in the entire world.
The auditions were just the beginning. Once the competition heated up, Dan wasn't about to hold back. He had plenty more to prove, but everything changed when he landed in one of the season's most grueling elimination challenges, testing him like never before. After her big win, Courtney found herself holding all the power, Seizing the moment, she stirred the pot by choosing the main ingredient for the challenge, and trust me, the drama that followed was absolutely thrilling.
A stunning meatloaf.
And if you've ever tasted a meatloaf that missed the mark, you'll know the pressure was on. Sure, it seems simple, but nailing a perfectly cooked meatloaf? Way trickier than it looks.
Dan Wu, I think he's going in an Asian direction. Maybe do a hoisin glaze, some kind of oyster sauce.
I like that.
I'm excited to try that one.
Dan stepped into the challenge radiating confidence, tossing in a bit of playful snark for those who might have labeled him a snob. This was his moment to shatter those assumptions and prove them all wrong.
I don't need Courtney to save me. I know I'm good enough to get up on that balcony all on my own.
Oh, absolutely. Dan wasn't just confident, he talked a big game, making sure everyone knew he had this in the bag.
Snobbery to me just means I've had better, and I expect better, and I will make better.
Hold up, Dan. Maybe tone down the self-praise a notch. He presented his meatloaf paired with kimchi, a bold and imaginative choice, or so it seemed at first glance. The judges were intrigued, and Dan was riding high for now. But when the judges finally tasted his dish, that bold creativity fell flat. Ramsay took a bite, paused for a moment, and then hesitated to find words for what he'd just experienced. Let's just say it wasn't good.
That is absolutely disgusting.
Ouch, that had to sting, especially after all that bravado. Here's a lesson. No matter how good a dish sounds, the judges will tear it apart if the execution flops. Ramsay didn't hold back, breaking down the dish and labeling every element its own catastrophe. Brutal.
The blend is way too wet. Not a big fan of raw Brussels sprouts.
It was a total disaster, with the main ingredients completely off. Ramsay didn't hold back, letting everyone know exactly how revolting he thought it was. No sugarcoating, no mercy.
That is one of the worst meatloaves I've ever eaten.
Honestly, it was a hard hit for Dan, who had invested so much passion and effort into the dish.
When Chef Ramsay says your food is disgusting, it's the worst thing you can hear.
Safe to say Ramsay's remarks were a hell of a blow.
It's absolutely devastating.
But Dan wasn't the only one getting hit that day. Stephanie, brimming with confidence in her dish, was about to face a tough reality check. The harsh truth was coming her way, and it wasn't going to be pretty. She had just 1 hour to pull off a winning dish, but instead of playing it safe, Stephanie decided to pair lamb meatloaf with couscous, which was already a bold choice. But then, just to kick things up a notch, she topped it off with a blue cheese cream sauce. And wait, it gets worse. Joe stepped in and asked her, and that was the moment the red flags really started flying.
Wait, that's very non-traditional. Have you ever made this before?
No.
Joe was baffled by the blue cheese sauce choice. She hadn't even tested whether the flavors would work together. When it was Stephanie's turn to present her lamb meatloaf with couscous, pepper ribbons, and blue cheese cream sauce, Ramsay didn't hold back. He dropped a sarcastic comment so cringy that it made everyone in the room squirm uncomfortably.
Blue cheese and couscous, that classic combo.
Surprisingly, Stephanie took Ramsay's words at face value, feeling a boost of confidence. But that confidence evaporated the moment he took a bite. What happened next? It was like a punch to the gut, a moment she'll never forget.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
The lamb was overcooked, the couscous bland, and the blue cheese sauce a complete failure. Oh, and the chili flakes? Way too much. Ramsay, intrigued, asked Stephanie why she thought this odd combination of ingredients would work. Caught off guard, she struggled to explain herself.
Where are you going on this?
Well, I took a risk, and
No.
you don't like it, but
Unfortunately for her, it was a massive mistake. Ramsay was beyond disappointed and didn't mince words. And he had nothing more for her but advice no chef ever wants to hear.
H-O-M-E. That's where you should be heading.
Stephanie was stunned. She couldn't wrap her head around how badly her dish had been received, especially since, in her mind, no one had ever told her her food wasn't up to par before.
I feel like crap. I have never been told that my food is not good. I just want to crawl under the nearest oven.
That in itself was surprising given the train wreck that was her meatloaf experiment. Despite her overconfidence, her lack of self-awareness and unwillingness to take constructive criticism ultimately led to her downfall. Talking about a disastrous, disgusting dishes, we cannot possibly miss Courtney's donuts from Season 5 of MasterChef US. Everything from the start to finish was like a catastrophe unfolding.
Is anybody? I'm screwed. I just started over. I'm remaking my dough.
That's seriously salty.
So in episode 4, Aran had a huge advantage in the pressure test, and boy did she use it to stir up some drama. She got to choose the dish for everyone to make, and she picked one of the toughest things ever to pull off in under 60 minutes.
Beautiful donuts. Look at them.
Wow.
They can be glazed.
And guess who her main target was? Well, take a guess. It's pretty obvious, right?
So, Aran, who do you want to take out of the competition first?
Honestly, I want to take Courtney out of the competition.
Yup, Courtney. The pantry turned into full-on chaos, with everyone scrambling to grab whatever they could. As for Courtney, she had big plans. She was aiming for a variety-packed box of donuts, so she grabbed an entire array of ingredients. Everything except for one tiny, no scratch that, huge ingredient that was absolutely crucial to her dough. And here's the kicker, it was the one ingredient that would decide her fate in the competition. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well.
And I don't have any yeast. Elise, did you grab any extra yeast?
No, I'm sorry. I only got the 2.
Yeast. Yep, she forgot yeast. But wait, it gets even worse. Halfway through making her dough, she realized there was one more thing missing that could totally ruin her chances. Ready for it?
I'm remaking my dough because I forgot to add eggs to it. I have to start over, all over.
She also forgot to put eggs in the batter, which were literally right in front of her. How does that slip by? With no other choice, she had to start her dough from scratch. But first, she needed yeast, and there was only one option left.
I'm basically shouting down the line to anybody that might have yeast, and no one will give me anything.
Let's be real, most people didn't have any, and those who did, why would they give it up and help the competition? Courtney was in deep trouble, losing precious time. She'd asked nearly everyone in the kitchen and was clearly losing hope. You could see it in her eyes, she knew the clock was ticking fast. Desperate, she turned to Francis. And you won't believe how close she came to disaster before he pulled her out of the fire.
You have the whole kitchen in here. Do you have any extra yeast? I love you. Thank you.
But let's not get too excited, because what Ramsey said next was like the last nail in the coffin.
You better rise.
35 minutes gone, 55 minutes to go.
She was way behind, 35 minutes late. Not 10 or 15, but a solid 35 minutes. At that point, it felt like a miracle was her only chance to save herself. The clock was her enemy, and the pressure was mounting fast. But just when it seemed like Courtney might have dodged the bullet, Ramsey took one bite of her donut, and his face said it all. The look of disappointment was enough to make anyone squirm. She had somehow managed to salvage the presentation, but the taste? Not so much.
The dough, aerated, nice and crispy on the outside.
But the second he took a bite, his face dropped faster than you can imagine. Courtney knew it. You could see it in her eyes. The donuts were salty. Not just a little salty, like way too salty. She had mixed up the sugar with salt. How does that even happen? And wait for Courtney's reply, because it was totally disappointing, even for me.
Didn't put salt in place of sugar.
That is a mistake. I did not purposely put more salt in there.
I can tell you it tastes weird.
Ramsey couldn't even wait for a tissue. He spit it right into his hand. The man couldn't keep it in his mouth for another second, and honestly, who could blame him? He was absolutely floored that Courtney, who had just won the previous baking challenge, managed to make 3 huge mistakes in one go. It was brutal. Joe was equally disappointed, and what he said next made things worse for Courtney.
It's hard for me to love these donuts. It's hard for me to even like them.
I'm sorry, Chef.
Joe also pointed out that not only was the flavor off, but the texture of the dough and glaze were all wrong. There was not a single thing to like about them. But can you think of more times when the dishes disgusted the MasterChef judges? Don't forget to let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And hey, if you thought this video was crazy, then this next one is just the thing you need. So be sure to check it out.